Hello, pre-algebra students, and welcome to another episode of Math with Mrs. Wilson. Today we are solving one-step equations, and one-step equations use inverse operations. So write that down on your paper. Inverse operations. What that means is if you are adding, then the inverse operation would be to subtract. And the inverse operation of multiplying is to divide, and the inverse multiplication of dividing is to multiply. So back and forth. So that is very important for solving equations. Today we're just doing one-step equations, but when we get into two-step equations, this idea of inverse operations is very important, and we have to go step by step by step. So eventually we're going to get to a very complex equation that has multi-steps. And so even if you can do these in your head without doing an inverse operation, it's best to practice each step and showing your work. So that way when we get to more complicated equations, we know what to do. All right, so for number 1, let's add 18 to both sides. Because we were subtracting 18, and the inverse of subtracting 18 is to add 18. And this is called isolating the variable. So now we just have n on that side, and 1 plus 18 is 19. What we do to one side of the equation, we must do to the other side of the equation. Let's do number 3. It says b minus 15. We want to get b isolated. So we subtracted 15 from b. To undo that, we add 15 because negative 15 plus 15 is 0. So they cancel. But if I do that to one side of the equation, I must do that to the other side of the equation. So we're left with b equals negative 11 plus 15. Since it's a positive and a negative, we subtract and we get 4. I'm going to pause the video and actually I'm going to do one more and then I'll pause the video and I will let you complete the other 3 problems. So let's subtract 8 from both sides. Because 8 is positive and it's being added to x, so that would be the inverse operation here. That cancels, leaving us with just x. 5 minus 8 is negative 3. All right, now I'll pause the video and you can work out 2, 4, and 6. And when I unpause the video, you can check your answers. Did you get your answers correct? If you did, give yourself a star. If you did not, go ahead and correct your answers now. You can pause the video if you need to. All right, let's look at number 7. We have negative 11v equals negative 143. When we have a coefficient or a number in front of a variable, that means that number is being multiplied by the variable. And remember in our inverse operations, what's the inverse of multiply? That's right, divide. So let's divide, and I like to show dividing with a fraction bar. So we divide by 11 on both sides, and even though it was negative, we keep it negative because we divide, that's what we're dividing by. Right? So that's our inverse operation here. So we divide by negative 11, and we just get v, because negative 11 divided by negative 11 is 1, and 1v is just v. Dividing 143 by 11 is positive 13, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. I'm going to do number 8 with you. Number 8 says x divided by 6. If it's x divided by 6, what is the inverse operation? That's right, we're going to multiply by 6. So the 6's cancel, and we have x is equal to negative 120, because a negative times a positive is a negative. I'm going to pause the video, or you can pause the video, and do numbers 9 and 10. And then we'll come back and check your answers. Did you get these correct? If yes, give yourself a star. If not, go ahead and correct your answers. When you're ready, flip your page. On number 11, we look at k, and k is being divided by 13. What's the inverse operation of divide by 13? That's right, multiply by 13. When we multiply by 13, we get 65, so k equals 65. Let's look at number 13. Number 13 is kind of tricky. It looks like we're multiplying x by 7 1/4. So we would divide by 7 1/4, but that's difficult to do. So the first thing I want to do is change these to improper. Let's just write that so we remember. Change to improper. So 7 times 4 is 28, plus 1 is 29. We have 29/4. X is equal to, oh my goodness, 26 times 40. I'm going to use a calculator for this. 26 times 40 plus 33 is 1073 over 40. Now I can I'm multiplying 29 over 4, so I would divide by 29 over 4. But if you remember, dividing by a fraction, we like to multiply by the reciprocal instead. So let's just rewrite everything. This will cancel, so we just have x. But instead of 1073 over 40 divided by 29 over 4, we're going to change it to multiplication and flip that 29/4. So here we can cross cancel. The 4 can become a 1 and the 40 can become 10. So then x is equal to 1073 over 10 times 29 is 290. I'm going to put that in my calculator as a division, so 1073 divided by 290, and I get 3.7, so I'm just going to leave it like this, or I can write it as a decimal. Either answer is okay. Let's do one more before I pause the video and let you try 12, 14, and 16. All right. On number 15, it's negative 1/4 equals n plus 3/4. What's happening to the n? We want to get n by itself. We want to isolate it, but there's a 3/4 being added. It's already, it's not mixed, so I'm just going to subtract 3/4 from both sides. Notice how it's a negative and a negative that we're adding on the left side. Negative 1/4 plus negative 3/4. Since they're both negative, we add them, and we get negative 4/4 is equal to n. But negative 4/4 simplifies, so n just equals negative 1. I'm going to pause the video and have you try 12, 14, and 16. When you're finished, you may play the video and check your answers. Check your answers for 12, 14, and 16. If you got them right, give yourself a star. And let's talk about these word problems. So 7 workers are hired to harvest potatoes from a field. Each was given a plot that was 10 by 5 meters in size. So what was the total area of the field? So since there are 7 workers and they each are given a 10 by 5, that would be a 50 square meter field, then the area of the field would be equal to 350 square meters. How old is Suma Lee if she was 5 years old 13 years ago? Well, let's take her age now. Her age now, I'll use a little a since we're not talking about area. Her age now minus 13 is 5 years old. So if we add 13 to both sides, her age now is 18 years old. Pause the video and you can do 19 and 20. Check your answers. If you got them correct, give yourself a star. And then you can go ahead and start your homework, which is very similar to this page of notes.